Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 3, Episode 25. It's called Transfigurations, or we're going to learn about O'Brien and how he likes to kayak. That'll be the highlight of the show, I guarantee it. I guarantee it? That's my John Hammond. You're welcome. Full spoilers for the episode.
Oh, off to a riveting start here, aren't we?
That was a bit off, though. I'm a bit too high pitched for that one. I do better with the other. I was like, hello, John. Hello, John. Hello, John. And that's the bit where he's on the screen and he's talking to himself and they're all duplicating. It's very good.
Yeah. That bit is better. I'll give you that.
Oh, dear. Yeah, so that's the episode. It's a really normal, by the numbers Star Trek episode.
It's fine.
I feel like this is the most original series episode of Star Trek that we've had. Maybe since the start of their show. And it's not bad.
At least since like in season one.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a handful in season one that felt like were just recycled scripts.
It's so funny because the next episode is maybe the most famous episode of the entire show, and I'm sure it's going to blow us away. And it's just funny that the one right before it is this.
I really hope our expectations aren't overhyped for the next episode.
After Q Who last season, I'm not worried.
Okay, that's true.
I'm not worried. After
so
that
far,
one,
they have all lived up, haven't they?
Yeah. Transfigurations, they find an alien who's crash landed on a planet. He's very injured. Crusher's doing her work on him. Notably, there's a bit of a Geordi, to stabilize his mind, she has to connect his mind to Geordi's with this doohickey, which has a side effect on Geordi that's kind of a subplot, but we'll get to that. But ultimately, this guy, he's got amnesia, but he is able to survive. Although mostly not through her efforts. She acknowledges that it's more to do with his body having this hopefully natural healing ability. It's like he's mutating, but does seem to be fine. He's on the mend and he's going to get back up. But he does have amnesia. He doesn't know where he's from or who he is. He goes by John, but. Because of John Doe, obviously, just because that wasn't clear. But he doesn't know who he is. There's evidence to suggest in the orbit of this planet that there was a fight. There was some sort of ship battle that put his ship down. He's in an escape pod on the planet, and the episode is largely about them trying to figure out what this is. He eventually turns out to have healing powers. He's able to heal people multiple times, and he has these weird moments of remembering small details. There's a weird sidetrack at one point where he tries to steal a shuttle, and I guess it's kind of just supposed to be that he kind of has this feeling that he has to run, and it kind of ties into what his backstory actually is. But honestly, it feels kind of just tacked on for the most part to give it
a little bit,
just to have a bit of excitement in the middle of the episode, because all the excitement really comes at the end. It kind of gets, there's a kind of little bit of a connection with Crusher romantically, not much. In fact, to be honest, the biggest scene that comes out of it is a really awkward scene where Wesley's having dinner with his mother, and it's like he's actually her girlfriend and not her son. The way he talks to her about this, he's kind of like, I think it's a bit more than that, Mum. There's a little spark there, I think. Yeah, it's weird. If anything, it sounds more like he's the parent talking to his child, saying, "Hey, I think you've got a crush on someone." I think there's sparks there. It was weird. But hey,
he's a weird kid. What do you want?
That's the gist of the episode. Honestly, I'll say it right now. Best thing of this episode is the opening scene, which is Geordi's got a crush on some woman on the ship. He's kind of looking over at her and he's like, "Oh, I'm a bit nervous. I want to talk to her." And Worf's with him, and he's like, "You must go over and let her see the fire in your eyes. You must look at her." And my immediate thought was, Worf, no one can see Geordi's eyes.
he meant metaphorically.
Right? But she comes over actually to the bar and says hey to Geordi, and he just kind of blows it, but she's clearly into him. She's asking about his day. She touches him on the arm. All the signs are there, right? All the signs of interest are there, and he just completely waffles it, and Worf just kind of groans and says, "I have much to tell you about women." And I just really laughed.
I have a question about this subplot here, and the start of this here. Why doesn't Geordi just get her to Wesley for help?
Because as we know, Wesley Crusher's in complete control of the ladies. I'm starting to suspect that it's actually Worf. In fact, my second favorite moment of this episode is the payoff to this, because Geordi has some time with his mind connected to this John. it gives him this extra confidence, and he goes up and he's like, no, do you want some company, Layla, whatever her name is, and she's like, I'd like that very much, and they walk off together, and I think it's Data sitting with them as well in 10 forward. He's kind of confused, and Worf just sort of takes credit and goes, yes, I've been coaching him, he learns very quickly, and just takes a sip of his drink, and I'm like Worf thinking he's like a ladies' man is like my new favourite thing.
He probably is.
I will happily replace the ending of this with without any humour attached to it. When it comes to the ladies, Worf is in complete control.
We just need some hard evidence.
Yes. So no. I thought that was delightful stuff. Delightful. Also, I love that. I go even more Scottish when I'm doing a Worf voice for some reason, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because Klingon is a harsh language, much like the Scottish accent.
Well, the Scottish accent doesn't always have to be harsh.
No, it doesn't. I'm making a joke.
There's various permutations of the Scottish accent.
There are.
I guess my natural instinct is Scottish is to go with a sort of brogue, like the sort of character you'd expect to yell in Braveheart. It's kind of like what I'm emulating.
Yeah, I mean, the two kind of distinct accents that most people can tell the difference between, easily, would be Glasgow and Edinburgh, and one is very harsh, and one is relatively soft.
Yes. All right, we'll move on then.
Yeah.
So, yes, the main plot though. John, he glows of light. He cures people. Picard is very curious as to what's going on. He's especially curious after he tries to steal the shuttle, which kills Worf. He kind of kills Worf, but then brings it back with his powers. So
it did feel, to be fair, in his defense, it felt like a complete accident as well. Like he lit up, and then Worf kind of got blinded and stood backwards and just fell over the railing. Some Klingon death that would have been, eh?
Yeah. No, he would have been very honourable with it. He'd be like...
In Klingon Valhalla, how did you die? I fell off a railing.
Do you think Klingons... Like, I almost want an episode now where they asked to go to a Klingon funeral, but the Klingon who died, like, fell in a hole or something like that. It's just something really stupid. Like,
got killed by a puddle, maybe?
Really, really dishonourable death. Yeah, but at least the puddle was hostile. Like, it was like an entity that was against Tasha.
I don't think that would be much satisfaction to a Klingon.
But I just love the idea of, like, people used about the Darwin Awards of people dying in really stupid ways. Like, what does a Klingon think of dying by accidentally, I don't know, like electrocuting yourself or something like that?
I mean, I'm still assuming it's a step up from just dying in your sleep of old age.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is.
I feel like that is the very bottom of the barrel for Klingons. Like, that is the worst thing possible.
I guess. I don't
know. What do I know?
I don't know. I think the big negative for the end of this episode that I would say, because obviously he's slowly trying to remember who he is. He gets like little brief snippets. Eventually, there's a ship from the planet he's from. Shows up, and they demand to be handed over. He's one of 4 prisoners who were on the run. It's actually his own people who killed the other 3. And it's something that actually John has a sense of before this, is that he doesn't want to go back. When Picard says, well, we're going to take you back to your home world, he's like, I don't think I want to go back. I can't tell you why, but I that's, it terrifies me. I can't go back. And, and Picard sort of realizes that there's fishy stuff going on here. He realizes that he does kind of have to acknowledge that they want him back, and they outright say they're going to execute him because he's a criminal. He's the state wants him dead. But he does acknowledge, as with Troy pointed out as well, that there is something fishy here where it feels like it doesn't just feel like he's a criminal who committed a crime. It feels like the state really want to cover him up. Like there's something to hide here.
Yeah, honestly, I think this part of the episode should have been a lot, deeper explored. Like this bit here where they're talking about, well, I mean, it's their laws. What right do we have to not? If this was the other way around, we'd be demanding they respected our laws.
This is where the potential, the Star Trek exploration of morals and ethics could have came into it, but it's really just kind of a glossed over part.
It's like a 3-minute section that they were just like, well, never mind. I'll mention it to Riker offhandedly, and then we'll just get over it really quickly.
Yeah, and when he's asking for more information, they have powers. These people, they basically make everyone start to suffocate. They all can't breathe, including Picard, Worf, everyone, Crusher. But luckily John's able to sort of counteract it with his powers to the point where he actually does the whole ship by just like touching the ship, and like you see the glow kind of go through the whole ship, and they all get back up. And then we get the laughably goofy, like basically it turns out that he's actually transcending, and the people on his planet want to kill him because it's essentially the X-Men, right, where he's a mutation getting into the next stage of evolution. And at least in a Star Trek sense, I kind of appreciated that this is like, you know how many beings we met in the original Star Trek who'd become like godlike, or they were like in a higher plane of existence. I like the idea that this civilization just starting to transition, like they're just starting to get there. This is the first few people. Yeah,
I think Star Trek has established as a rule that this is the next point of evolution for most species, like advanced species.
Well, I would even say next. It's just somewhere down the line. This is where you eventually get to.
Yeah.
And he does this, and at first I thought the effect was alright because he sort of glows, like the color that he's been glowing as he's been healing and stuff, right? He sort of glows that, and I thought it was just going to be like a sort of man shape of light. But then once the light calmed down a little bit, he's still got a glow effect. But what he actually is he's basically a dude in a green screen like suit, but it's not green; it's like white or yellow instead.
Yeah. In fact, all I could think was Green Man from Always Sunny.
I thought of that. I also thought of the human being from Community.
Yeah.
And works. Because as he was speaking, you can still see his mouth moving behind the mask.
It's just his nose just sticking out of this like costume.
Which I don't think is supposed to feel like a costume. It's supposed to feel like he's ethereal or something like that. It looked really stupid and goofy and silly.
Because it was still like lit, like he had a bit of a glow, and I feel like the intention was kind of what you thought there, where oh no, he'll just always glow and you won't see the costume.
I think what the intended effect was, you know, at the start of the Superman movie where all their costumes in Krypton are all glowing and they're all overexposed. I think the intention here was to have it be so overexposed it was just a shape of like light, essentially, right? Just pure white light. Yeah. And instead, for whatever reason, maybe they couldn't pull that off, or maybe that wasn't the intent and I'm just making assumptions here. But it ended up being... Is this something
that would have looked better in SD back at the time? I don't think it would have done... I don't think it would have made that much difference here. But
maybe a little bit. But maybe it would have helped House... Because, I mean, him talking through the mask, you could really see the movement. Maybe that would have helped that little bit of it. A little touch, but I don't...
But you could still very clearly see the fabric, right? And I don't think they'd have hidden that.
Yeah. So... I don't know what to tell you.
No, it looked rough and it was goofy, and it wasn't a particularly great episode, but this kind of got laughable for this minute here.
And what I thought was weird is I thought Geordi was going to play into the main plot eventually, because they spent so much time on him and his confidence and like what he asked this girl out in the first half of the episode, that once he did, they just kind of forgot about him. And there was just one scene sort of late on when John was on his way to the bridge, he runs into him, and Geordi kind of thanks him because he's like, oh, I think that transfer like gave me confidence. And John's basically, no, it was in you all along. You know, he's just
yeah. I think there's a moment where he and Data extrapolate, the origin of his ship, the escape pod and where it's come from.
Yeah, but I mean, Geordi's in that scene, but it's not really about his story. That scene.
Well, no. This is what I'm getting at. Is I feel like the intention is, it's supposed to be, look how confident he is. He's just kind of pulling these ideas out. It kind of feels like Geordi anyway.
Yeah, the problem
at work.
Yeah, the problem is that everything he does in that scene seems like the sort of stuff that he does every episode.
Yeah, that's my problem as well. So it doesn't really come off that way.
It doesn't feel like he's super smart, Geordi, because he feels like Geordi's always this smart.
Yeah.
And yeah, because basically what they do is to try and like pinpoint where John's from is they've got some like vague data from his ship, because they had this like part of the computer that looks kind of funky, and they basically, okay, we've got like a pattern of flight, but there's no, like, we can't tell where he started or where this was in space, but basically they judge from where things curve. Like, okay, if this is him dodging like certain like orbits and stars, we can kind of like sort of almost fit it onto like a template of like a map, and see where he's been, and it traces it back to like his origin point, which is the planet.
Smart enough, and honestly was one of the more interesting minute or two of the episode.
Oh, no, it was.
There was some interesting logic in their workings out.
Now, the scene that reveals that he can heal people, though, of course, is the infamous, and I'm calling it infamous, the O'Brien kayaking scene. And what I love about this is not only does he walk in like a wetsuit or whatever he's wearing, kayaking gear, and he's holding his shoulder, he's dislocated his shoulder. The way he phrases it as he walks in made me laugh, because he says, "Oh, doctor, I've been kayaking in the holodeck again." I'm like, wait, hold on. You said that as if that's the mistake. You said that as if, like, like, see if he'd walked and says, "Oh, I've dislocated my shoulder again," that would make sense. But he said that as if he wasn't meant to be kayaking, as if he...
it's as if every time he does, something goes wrong.
Yeah, no. Yeah, well, yeah, that's point two. Point two is that, yeah, it implies that every time he does it, something goes wrong. But the way he specifically phrases it makes it sound like he never intends to kayak. He just always ends up kayaking.
I get where you come from. I think it was more just, like you say, I've dislocated again.
Yeah.
Rather than that, whatever he did last time was a different injury. So I've been kayaking again. So it's just, he just gets a different injury every time he goes kayaking.
Well, it's the way he phrased it, because if he'd come in and says, "Look, I've been kayaking again," and, like, I'd be fine. But he phrases it as if the kayaking always causes an injury, and I don't know, it made me laugh. And it's not a mistake or that, it's not a bad performance. I think it's intentionally meant to be kind of funny.
I think it is supposed to be kind of goofy and some comic relief in, like, why is O'Brien just here in a wetsuit?
Yes. So I enjoyed that. I really want scenes of O'Brien kayaking now. It's my new, like,
one day.
Honestly, if anything, if anything's replacing Wesley Crusher as the outro of the show, O'Brien kayaking, something to do with O'Brien. I don't know.
we'll figure it out.
I hope this is something that, because he becomes a main character in Deep Space Nine, I hope that in Deep Space Nine they explore his love of kayaking. Which doesn't...
I love how this is the only hobby we know he has now, right?
And it's not something like, because we know how he turned down like a similar leprechaun in a previous episode. I wonder if like when he agreed to do this, he read the script, like, yeah, this isn't too Irish. I'm okay with this. This isn't a stereotype.
Yeah, it's
kayak is nice and neutral.
Yeah, I would not associate that with anyone in particular.
No. So there you go. Admittedly, I mean, kayak is obviously a thing everywhere. I would definitely associate it more with, like, you know, I for some reason I imagine Australia having a lot of kayaking, because it's a...
I mean, maybe I'm biased here. I used to do a lot of kayaking when I was younger, and there is a place that does kayaks. Like there's a lake that does it like 10 minutes from my house.
Did you wear a wetsuit?
I didn't wear a wetsuit. No, I wore just shorts and t-shirt. I did have one of the flaps that you kind of wear around your waist, and it stretches around the top of the kayak to stop the water getting inside. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never been in a kayak myself. Bigger boats, but not kayak.
No, I really enjoyed kayaking a lot. A lot of fun.
Yeah. A big ship, I'm fine. Admittedly, when I was a kid, I went onto like a small boat in like a lake or whatever, and I felt really sick doing that. Whenever I've been on like a big ferry or something, that's felt fine. So
I think honestly you don't get seasick in a kayak either, because it's so small that you don't feel like because you're not stood up or anything like that. You're not like rocking side to side. You are moving, but your whole body is moving intentionally.
It's more like you're swimming still rather than being on the...
Yeah, it's like the feeling is kind of like a cross between like swimming and cycling to your body, so it doesn't feel like seasickness. Like there's no motion like that to it.
I love how much time was spent in this kayaking.
It's the highlight of the episode, clearly.
I told you that at the start. I called it at the start of the review. I said the kayak is the most memorable thing about this episode, is that O'Brien's been kayaking again.
Oh, I just love that O'Brien has been so well developed as a background character.
I've got a theory, actually. He wasn't kayaking. He was in there doing dirty things, and he dislocated his shoulder having a wank. So he's done. He's ran to his room, and he's put on a wetsuit.
I cannot imagine, like, wetsuits are difficult to get on. I don't know if you've ever worn a wetsuit.
I can't say I have, no.
They are difficult to put on, and like they're not because they're really tight. That's the point. I cannot imagine doing that with a dislocated shoulder.
Okay, he's done this before, and he knows there's a risk, so he intentionally wears a wetsuit
in case.
Just in case. So he's got an excuse. He's got like a cover story, so he doesn't have to say to Crusher, "Look, I was really going at it in the holodeck, and I might have dislocated my shoulder again."
Maybe he's got a thing for mermaids. That would explain the wetsuit.
Yeah, maybe he's got some sort of sailor, like, mermaid fantasy. I don't know. Not that sailors wear wetsuits, but you know what I mean. I don't know. He's got he has fantasies. He's a deep sea diver, right? And he's looking in the water for something, right? Maybe he's hunting for treasure or something, I don't know. And he comes across a mermaid, and it's this romantic underwater love story.
Yeah.
That
Sounds completely plausible. Also, I don't want anyone in the comments to give a shit if this is a dry suit, not a wet suit. Don't want to hear it. They're basically the same. Don't care. It dawned on me that maybe it's a dry suit, and someone will be like, you spend a lot of time on this, and be finicky about it. And don't care.
I can't tell the difference. I don't really care.
Nor can I. That's kind of
I
my
don't
point.
really care. I don't give a shit. I'm good. I'll live with the mistake. All right. There's some mistakes that have been pointed out in some reviews. Sometimes where I'm like, damn it, and I get really mad at myself. But then there's some of them where I just don't give a shit. And this is one of those times where I don't care.
Priorities.
Every comment could be corrected us on the type of suit. I ain't going to lose a wink of sleep over it. I can live with myself. So, all right. Yes, and the time-honored wording of Michael Fassbender, I'll blow you to the fingering. So, I guess that's Transfigurations.
Is that how we're ending this?
Yes. That's how we're ending this. Look, we got 2 uninteresting episodes before a classic, okay? And I think we've said all we need to say about this episode. In fact, we said all we had to say about this episode about 5 minutes ago. And then we
spent 5 minutes talking about kayaking.
And then we kept going. So thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you had some entertainment value out of the ridiculous nonsense at the end of this.
Yeah. You still going to read the blurb for the next one?
Oh, yeah. What's next time, yes. Just
because we know what the episode is, and we should still adhere to format.
True. Of course, the next one is The Best of Both Worlds, Part 1. Which, of course, is a very famous episode. The description here on IMDb is, responding to a distress call on one of the Federation's outermost colonies, the Enterprise arrives only to find a big hole in the ground where the town used to be. That already sounds quite good, actually, even without knowing.
Sounds intriguing, yeah. And
discovers the Borg are behind the attack. Ooh. So, I love the idea that we knew they were coming and that they're on the outskirts, like one of the most outskirts colonies.
They're right out there, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I'm into this. So this should be good. The rating in IMDb is, I'm pretty sure, is the highest I've seen in any episode. So we'll see if it lives up to that monumental task. So yeah, it's not a terrible episode. It's perfectly watchable, but it's also kind of dull and just very typical Star Trek. Something this season's been very good at is finding what the core debate or moral or ethical sort of discussion is, and even if some of the facets of the episode are a little bit goofy or whatever, that core aspect will raise the episode above what the show was in the first couple of seasons for the most part. So the fact that this one and the last one were both kind of like, whatever.
Honestly, I think that's where this one really falls flat, is that it has that moral message point in there, but it just doesn't actually want to deal with it this time. It's just like, well, we should probably mention it. Yeah.
So there you go. So thank you once again. Let us know what you thought in the comments. Please do like. Like is really important on YouTube. It allows YouTube to recommend us out to other people. So please do. It's the free way to support us. Nice and easy. But you can also, of course, support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble. So go and have a look at that. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys. And remember, when it comes to the ladies, Worf is in control, whilst O'Brien is not in control in the kayak.